Alright guys, welcome back to another fun-filled episode of the Ocean Floor and Marine Life, Part 2. Also, this video is heavy on the notes, so, be sure to take pauses every once in a while, do some arm flexes, something, because you're going to be using that hand a lot. And don't forget, like and subscribe me. Alright guys, so let's get down to business because like I said, we got a lot to write. So we're going to start out with talking about the ocean zones. The ocean is broken down into different zones, and each zone has its own different temperatures, its own different factors, its own different animals. So keep in mind these adaptations that you have to have. You can read them, write them yourself, and remember that some of these zones contain what we call very harsh conditions, which are difficult, hard to live in conditions. So here is our first zone. It's called the intertidal zone. Okay, you got your description. It's this area between high and low tides located on the continental shelf. It's very harsh because you've got waves coming in and out, in and out. You've got these different organisms here and in this picture that you can see. Water temperatures and light. The temp varies depending on what tide is in and what the season is, but it does get good light. Harsh conditions, because the creatures are only covered in water part of the time, so nutrients sometimes are hard to come by. Lots and lots of waves, and salt and oxygen, it just changes with the tides. Next zone is called the neritic zone. It's below the low tide. It's still on the continental shelf. Here it is right here in this picture. Coral reefs and all the creatures that live in them, kelp forests are all there. Good temperatures, but really just depends. Temperature of coral reefs in one area is going to be different from temperature in coral reefs in another. Lots of light for the kelp and the phytoplankton. Some good nutrients near the shore. Stable waves because it's below the tides. And then good levels of salt and gases. This is where all the really cute, awesome, beautiful creatures, like Finding Nemo kind of stuff lives there. Okay, our next zone is technically two zones, even though they're both called open ocean. So the first one is the surface zone. And if you'll look, guys, I have several pictures over here. So this picture here lets you know that this is the ocean zone. And we're going to break it down into surface zone and deep zone. So we're talking about the surface zone. It extends as far as the light touches, via Simba, okay? Everything the light touches. That's the surface zone. Organisms, you got your algae, you've got your tuna, your whales, your dolphins, your shark, all those big things that you think of when you think of the ocean. Warmer water because of the sunshine, okay? There's sunshine basically until about 200 feet. Most of the nutrients are there. Very little wave action. The salinity increases and decreases just depending on where it's at. And then there's high amounts of dissolved oxygen. And think about it. Big things like whales and dolphins, they've got to have the air. Big things like, they won't have the dissolved gases, but you got your bigger fish that need the dissolved gases too. Okay, so here's our last zone. It's the open ocean, deep zone, kind of like the Twilight Zone. Okay, so below where the sun reaches, no plant growth because it's too dark. There's hydrothermal vents, which are these guys right here. Organisms. Oh man, guys, y'all better watch out because it's got these things. Okay, cold water, little to no light, very little nutrients available, and it's really deep, so there are no waves. Okay, so here are some words to know. Hydrothermal vents, underwater hot springs or geysers that emit hot water, and they're down there in that deep zone. Kelp is just large seaweed. If something is bioluminescent, okay, that just means they produce and emit light. So whenever you see fish, especially those creepy, crazy ones that are in the deep ocean and they seem to emit light, it's because they are bioluminescent. You've got tide pools, which are just puddles that are left over when high tides turn to low tides, making a brackish water. Estuaries, which are areas where fresh water meets salt water. By the way, when fresh meets salt, that's what we call brackish water. And salt marshes, which are large areas of brackish water where the ocean has been flooded by high tides. Now, I know I went quick, and I know this is a lot of stuff, and maybe your hand's all cramping up, but go get you some ice, hit pause, hit play, because remember, I'm taking this, Healy, I'm taking this, and I think everybody else is too, as a grade, this video and the video before it, part 1 and part 2, on Monday. So have a super fantastic science weekend, and remember, like and subscribe. By the way, that wasn't me. That was a super awesome kid for my 8th period. Ask around. I'm sure you can get her name. Bye, guys.